we keep reading about how awful the job market is and what a challenge it is. And I wanted to know what was going on in my area. So I really appreciate you taking the time to share a little bit about what's going on in your organization. So to kick things off, tell us about what your business does and what you do there and how long you've been doing it.
Sure. I am the Human Resource Director at Bachman Auto Group. We are a large car dealership on the east end of Louisville. And I have had this position since 2017. Before that, I was the Human Resource Manager for our Louisville location. We purchased an Indiana store. I became the director.
How many employees do you currently have?
It varies, of course, with the market, but we are right about 420, 430 employees. Pretty good size.
Yes. What are some of the key issues you're seeing for employment in your sector, in your industry?
Well, I think I would say, like everyone in the country, we're having trouble finding people. It's just really difficult to find people. People like technicians and painters in our industry have to have specialized skills, and it's just becoming very difficult to source those. We have very few newcomers coming into the industry just because of the reputation it has, or maybe there's no interest level. It's getting more technological, which is great because that attracts a completely different type of person. So that's good. But I feel like that's probably one of the bigger issues that we face. Also, benefits is a big issue for us. We're not what you would consider a really large company. We're not an Amazon or a UPS, but we're in the same town. So we have to compete for some of the same talent. So without their, of course, huge employee base to negotiate benefits. So we try to get a little creative with the benefits we offer. Things like ancillary benefits like cancer and identity theft insurance. We offer discounts on sales and service products, and we offer to help our people pay for their certifications too. So we try to get just a little creative with how we do it.
Yeah, you do have real stiff competition for the
Absolutely.
kind of work you're looking for. What is it that makes your culture stand out, even among other car dealerships? What's different?
That's an easy one for me. We're a family-based, Christian-based organization, and the family's very involved in the organization. Still corporate, but more like fam corporate. if that's a new buzzword now. So I think with that in mind, that makes us a little bit more nimble in responding to our employees' needs, both their career path and their individual family needs. I think that would really make us a standout for our culture.
I can see where that would be unique in the industry.
Especially up against a UPS or an Amazon who can't do that.
Very much so. As you've grown, what are some of the challenges that you faced and what have you learned from it?
I would say overall the concept of human resources is sort of a reactive thing for a lot of people. Management doesn't really consider the human resource department to be an ally for them. Instead, they're those process people, or they're there to help you, maybe help with a problem employee, things like that. So I would say the opportunity for me is to create that environment that allows the managers to consider us a tool for them to be able to better manage themselves and help their employees grow and make their departments easier to operate. So when I'm looking for somebody for my team, I'm always looking for somebody that has a can-do, think outside the box, do what it takes kind of an attitude. Because whether it's cleaning the bathrooms or getting the technicians lunch to make things operate more smoothly, that's what you'll see me doing to make sure that everybody is on the same path and we're all helping to move forward.
As a former HR director, I applaud you and I encourage you.
Yes, it's very hard sometimes when the managers are like, we don't need that HR. They just tell us what to do. Eventually they need you. And so making yourself as indispensable as possible, leading up to that need, really helps them value it when it does happen.
As you're growing your team, and I assume you always haven't been at over 400 and you added a facility.
We've added several, yes.
What advice would you give to somebody else who's trying to grow their team?
I guess the most important advice I would give is don't be afraid to pick the wrong person. So many times we're like, ooh, the perfect candidate. And they might not necessarily be like that person that you think, but once you get them lined up, they tend to surprise you. We had a young lady we hired for our controller as her assistant, and she was just not the person to sit in front of a computer and crunch numbers all day long, but she was great with people. And so we gave her an opportunity inside the HR department, and she was a phenomenal interviewer. So we actually grew her into our hiring manager. So it's not always about what you see that they do right away. Sometimes it's about what you can grow them into. Now, on the flip side of that, I would say if you have somebody who's not meeting expectations, you need to tell them that nicely and respectfully, because I don't think anybody generally tries to be a failure, but they need to know that they have improvement to do. So I would say those are the advice that I would give to somebody.
That is so important, because if you wait for that annual review and then slam somebody, they're like, why didn't you tell me this?
Exactly. And it's easier not only for as a manager to remember what's going on with an employee as it's going along, but also it's easier for the employee to say, oh, I need to improve on that, and I can do that in these ways, as opposed to looking back and going, if you told me that, I could have done this and this differently. So yes, right. Communication is very important.
If you could begin your journey again, is there anything you would do differently?
Oh, wow. Yes. I would ask questions and not be afraid to ask for help. I'm a real do-it-yourself kind of a person, which is, I think, maybe made things a little harder on me in the end. But knowing that there's resources out there and ideas already in existence, it would have been a lot easier if I had just taken those and adapted them instead of trying to reinvent the wheel. So I would say, yes, ask questions and don't be afraid to ask for help if you're starting your journey out and don't know what you're doing. That would be advice I would give.
You've got multiple facilities and multiple departments within those facilities. How do you keep everybody connected?
We have a wonderful, amazing, I can't say enough about the IT department. And so we have electronic communications, we have team meetings, we have just all kinds of great things as far as the technology goes. I happen to be a person who prefers like walking out and giving the individual personal kind of hello. So I try to take a department a week and do just a little quick walk around, make myself seen, see if anybody has any questions, kind of just talk to the people and let them know, hey, we may be in another building, but here's how you can reach me if you can't walk all the way over, use our technology. So it's difficult to keep, especially with our Indiana campus now, to keep everybody connected, but I think we do a pretty good job of making sure everybody is in the know.
Yeah, because 400 people, that's a lot to be communicating with.
And consistent.
Well, and then, crossing state lines, different.
Yes, always fun.
Laws, different requirements.
Yes.
And by the way, I'm a Bachman customer, so I'm familiar with the organization.
Thank you. I hope you've had a good experience here.
Very much so.
Good.
So where's Bachman going in the future? What do you see happening?
Ooh, well, we have a lot of course, everybody's been up on the technology, and I see the technology and the economy and the ecology changing us. Electric vehicles are coming, and frankly, hydro vehicles are probably not far behind that. So I really see that technology taking us further on both the sales side, giving our customers options, and on our service side as well, because that's all new technology that our technicians will benefit from learning and being able to move them into the future on their career path too. So I think that's going to be important for them. I also think that in our industry in particular, we've come to the realization that we're just going to have to grow our own. It's not going to happen by us going out and just searching the community. We're going to have to create that interest. And so we are working with several community organizations, including some of the high schools and the community colleges, to work on programs that bring the students in and interest them and provide the training that they need without them having to go through a secondary education. Some people aren't cut out for that. And we're hoping that that will benefit us in the end, and other dealerships as well, as far as making sure there's trades still available in the community. It's really important people don't realize how they're phasing out. So I would say we're very excited to see the future coming with the technology.
I'm so happy to hear that you've chosen to build people and to provide that level of training, because you're right, nobody's going into those trades, and not everybody should go for a 4-year degree, but there's certainly a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, some people don't want the debt, so it's a good opportunity for them to make good money without having to go through that 4-year degree.
And it sounds like you're really interested in somebody who is looking for a career and not just a job for a year or two.
Absolutely. People tend to think of car dealerships as being a place that they could just get a job or do a transition, but they really don't realize how much, with 7 different buildings and each department is kind of like a business in and of itself. There are a lot of business opportunities in the car dealership. And if you don't like what you're doing, you can always look at another department and transfer there. We transfer people all the time. I actually started out as the receptionist here many years ago, and I've worked in service, I've worked in parts, I did customer service, I ran the BDC. So I've done a little bit of everything here. And I think that gives a broad spectrum of what people can do in this business, what they're offered.
Is there one area more than another that you're particularly challenged with finding team members right now?
I would say technicians. It's really hard to find technicians, body technicians, painters. There just aren't a lot of people going into the trades. And so it's very difficult for us to find those sorts of people. That's where we're really starting our grow your own.
Okay. But things like sales and service and all that, is that a little easier to find people, or is that got its own challenges?
A little. We have had a sales training program for many years, and so it's not as difficult to take an individual from another line or another industry and train them to be a salesperson or even a service advisor. That's not quite as difficult as finding someone who wants to get dirty every day working on a car and is willing to keep up with the technology that it takes to work on the newer vehicles.
And I'm sure a lot of people aren't making that connection with the technology. That's got to be exciting to a generation raised on video games.
Absolutely. And that is really, and like I said, when we compete with the Amazons and the UBSs, that is really one of the things that we emphasize, is that there is a lot of technology here and you can make a career out of having that technology available to you.
It all sounds very, very exciting. Is there anything else you want to share with our audience about the great things happening and how you're getting your team to be moving forward all the time?
I would say our ownership is key in that. They're very involved in the dealership day to day, as well as the overarching strategy that we have. And they're just really amazing people to work for. I actually, when I worked here as a receptionist, I was in college. And so when I graduated, I left to take a social service position, but it just didn't fit me as well. And so I actually came back to the dealership. I'm what we call a rerun. So I came back and the energy and the commitment that this dealership has to its people is just really inspiring.
That is so refreshing to hear. And that's really the reason I'm doing these interviews, to let people know that there are so many good things happening, good organizations, and good people to work for.
Right here in this city. And they're not hard to find. There's a lot of them.
Thank you so very much for taking the time to share all of this with me. I'm excited for you and excited for the growth that's happening at Bachman. That's wonderful.
2023 is going to be a great year.